Jesus more.
My dear friends, whenever I read this gospel, I always remember when I used to have masses in Kenya when I was still on my first appointments there, and on a Sunday when you go out to the outstations for mass, and then people would come for offertory. They will have the normal offertory, but then they have in Kenya something called matoleo, which is after the offertory, people come with it's like bringing our gifts to offer. And then there will be always this woman who would come with an egg, look, just bring this egg and just hand over to me. And it's always very fresh, and you can feel it's still warm. So it's like, it's just fresh egg, And I just always think about it, like this woman just wakes up in the morning, she feels she has to offer something to God, and then she goes to check if the hen has laid an egg, and she just picks it up and comes with it to the mass. And she will really dance forward, dance very well, and then comes and offers this one egg. And that image is always coming to my mind when I think about this widow dropping 2 coins in the temple's treasury. And I think this gospel is not really about those who are rich and those who are poor. It's nothing about that. It's about the heart of giving. It's about what we feel. Giving is not about how much you give, but the heart with which you give. You can find also poor people who don't give at all, who are very tight-hearted. They would not want to give anything. I can find many rich people who are so open and they give as much as they can. So it's not a reading of the rich against the poor. It has nothing to do with that. But then it tells you about this widow, who opens up totally to God and says, I have nothing, but what I have, I'm going to give back. A symbol of total dependence on God. That she has just 2 coins, but she says, this was given to me by God. I am giving back to God what He's given me. And he says, I'm going to depend on Him for everything. And that becomes the source of happiness. Up and against the other people who come and they give from the extra that they have. So that is the problem. There is a problem of partiality when we are so partial with God, where we can give this much, but then we want to keep something for ourselves in case God is going to fail us. That is a problem. And we do that most often, that we know we don't just want to take risk and depend on God totally. I want to keep something for myself so that in case God is going to fail, then I can take over from where God fails. At times we have that in mind all the time. And that was a problem of the rich fool. Remember in Luke's gospel still, talking about this man who had a great harvest, and he thought to himself, I'm going to break my barns because I don't have enough barns to store my food, and then I am going to store this big harvest in these bigger barns. And God called him fool. Fool, why? Because he feels the source of happiness, the source of joy, because he says to his soul, go and relax, have joy, do not worry about anything because you have enough to eat, you have enough to drink. Saying that the soul depends on his hard work. It is not about what God can provide, but what I can do. And that's why God calls him fool, because it depends on himself. The same thing in the gospel of today. The people who give from the extra is that they really depend on themselves. They feel, I want to keep something for myself. I just give that which I don't really need, but so that I can keep something for myself, up and against this widow who gives everything because she depends on God. An outward sign that everything is in God's hands. This is particular about Luke's gospel because, again, like I said, Luke is so based on the focus is the poor, the marginalized, God's mercy, God's compassion. And this widow stands for that community of the Anawim, those who totally depend on God for everything. And maybe this is a reminder for us as well, especially as we are crossing over to the new year. to the new liturgical year, that we may open up to God, especially during these difficult moments when things seem to be going up and down. We don't seem to understand what is happening. The world is in pieces, bits and pieces, that we may learn to depend on God. There are things that we will not understand by ourselves. We try to even understand. It's so difficult to get it. And people keep asking questions that we don't have answers to. But the most important thing is that we learn to depend on God. That God is the creator of everything. Yesterday we celebrated the feast of Jesus as the King of the universe, that Jesus is still sitting on his throne. Jesus is still the King. He has control of everything. And if only we can depend on him, then everything is going to be okay, because he is the source of happiness and he is love. Therefore, this woman, this widow in the gospel today, that giving out of everything is really the source of happiness, and it is love. And what is love? Love is seeking the good of the other. Not the good of myself, but the good of the other. That we may become people of love, that we may be able to surrender to God and to depend on him at all times. Let us ask God for that grace, to remain always faithful to him and to depend on him at all times. Amen.
Kiss us, mother, kiss your children. Bring God's blessings from above. With your mantle blue enfold us in your gentle holy love. See the darkness dissipating, hear the trumpet echoing, Satan's rage